I'm going to do something radical, and I'm going to actually start by covering something nobody else is covering. I know we're going to talk about Trump care and all that good stuff, but so for the audience, if you have been watching, I've been in East Chicago, Indiana 3 times, and I'm actually going back tomorrow. If you haven't followed the story, basically, like Flint, there was a lead issue. This one was different. This was a low-income Latino and African-American community, basically built on top of a lead smelting plant dating back to the 1960s. So last year, they found lead in the soil 212 times the allowable limit, which I think the allowable limit is 0, but whatever, they have an arbitrary level. So that at that time, they said, all right, we got to get everybody out. Of course, they didn't actually help people find new housing, new schools. It was basically, here's a housing voucher, you figure it out. These are all low income, poor, in this complex, the West Calumet complex, poor African Americans. So I've been there several times. I've interviewed a couple dozen people in the complex, and they had reached a settlement. There was a civil rights lawsuit against the city of East Chicago, and they reached a settlement basically giving them till July so their kids can finish the school year, and then they would move out of this complex. Well, yesterday, the remaining 81 citizens, residents in that complex, got a 10-day forced eviction notice, actually telling them, here's the location we're moving you. So no choice. They are not helping them find schools for their children. Many of these children actually have learning disabilities, so this is a very abrupt thing to do, to move them out of school. They've already been moved once this year because the school they were in was in that lead contamination zone. So now they're being moved again within one school year, 2 times. And just for an example, there's a woman named Akeisha Daniels. If you watch TYT Politics, I've interviewed her many times. Really, really nice single mother in this complex. She's got 3 kids, and she is being forced to move to Chicago, where she does not want to bring her children because they're not exactly moving her in to Hyde Park, if you know what I mean. They're moving her into a bad area. And just to give you some more info, as they move, all they're giving is boxes. They're giving moving trucks, but they're not helping with transferring their Medicaid. When you cross state lines, you have to do all this paperwork, and it doesn't just cross over with you. No help with transferring Medicaid, no help with any public benefits at all, and no help, again, with school placement. And why this is important, it's not just East Chicago. Reuters reported there's like 3,000 cities across America, probably more at this point, with toxic lead levels worse than Flint. And what happens here is the EPA, the state government, they knew about the toxins and the dangers for decades. They didn't do thorough testing until last year, and they said, oh, crap, there's lead in the soil. At the time, the EPA told me, this was last August, it's not a water issue, it's just in the soil. 3 months later, lead in the water. And now, after they have, not intentionally, but indirectly, they've poisoned many of these citizens. Many of them have health issues that they're now figuring out, oh, maybe it's because of the lead and the arsenic and the contaminants. Now they're basically given a kick in the butt, on your way. And that's happening in America. It's not a third world country. And by the way, Mike Pence, the current vice president, was governor while this was going on. He didn't go down to East Chicago once, but he did months earlier go down to a white community that had a lead in the water problem. It was fixed in 2 months. You haven't heard that on CNN, have you? You haven't heard that in the New York Times. So I'm obviously passionate about this. I think that there's 2 issues here. Number one is who the people that are remaining there, because it's not just in this complex. They're finding it in houses outside of this apartment complex. They don't know what's in their water. They don't know what's in their basements because the EPA has not, they've only tested like 60 homes. And number 2, who's going to pay? Who's going to pay for people's moving expenses, people's medical bills? The people on the ground there, they want Medicare for life because they've had to endure hospital bills, health bills, and basically this whole time, these citizens who are not the most educated, they just had to guess, oh, it's strange that, 4 women on my block, 4 40-year-old women have the same cancer. And what a coincidence. And now they're connecting the dots.
Yeah. And by the way, for the record, current governor is Eric Holcomb, so he's a Republican as well, kind of the person who's taking over the mantle from Mike Pence. Really, it's hard to go lower than Mike Pence in terms of general despicableness. But I also wanted to point out that they
Not to interrupt you, but important. The governor, Eric Holcomb, I'll give him credit. Pence did not declare an emergency disaster for this. Emergency disaster comes with money. Flint never got an emergency disaster either. Holcomb, he was Pence's lieutenant governor. Now, coming in as governor, he has declared an emergency disaster, but most of the money is going to demolishing this complex rather than helping the people.
And also, not to stroke your ego, but that's due to reporting really basically on the ground from you.
You can stroke my ego.
Yeah, I know I can. I just don't necessarily feel like it.
Yep.
So, earlier this month, HUD, which is now led by the incredibly intelligent Ben Carson, gave housing officials the power to initiate emergency transfers beginning at the end of March, if they so choose. So they're framing it, much like conservatives often do, as a choice. The real choice is, stay in this lead-infested area, which they're going to tear down, or stay in the state of Indiana, where you won't really have any housing, or go move to the south side of Chicago into new housing projects into a new state where there is one of the highest rates of gun violence in the country. So it is actually a Sophie's choice. The lowest income people in this country get tread on or treated the worst, and it's just a theme throughout the rest of the country. They have to cross state lines to Illinois to initiate an emergency to do the emergency transfer. They're not going to get help in, getting new driver's licenses, new paperwork. It's a huge issue to move from state to state. If you don't have a ton of money, you need money to do all that paperwork, and of course they're not going to help with that.
But also, listen, in fairness, I don't think Mike Pence, I don't think the EPA purposely poisoned anyone. I think it was gross negligence. I think in government they tend to focus on, all right, we got to focus on the problem now. Let's not worry about this neighborhood 20 years from now, right? But can you imagine if this was happening? 212 times the allowable limit, lead in the water. Can you imagine if it was happening on Park Avenue on the Upper East Side? About 15-minute subway ride? The National Guard would be in within a day. Smart water would be delivered throughout. People wouldn't have to lift a finger, and these are mostly wealthy white people. I don't care if you're white, black, brown, or a marshmallow. If you, through no fault of your own, have been a victim of lead contamination, and by the way, as I've shown in some of these communities, me and a water investigator have gone in and tested homes. It's not just lead. The media only focuses on lead. There's bacterias that I can't even pronounce being found, and you kids could get sick from bacteria. And just to remind you, I'm not a scientist, but it's proven. Lead stunts the IQ of children. It creates behavior problems. There's a direct correlation between high lead levels and crime. So when these conservatives, on certain networks and at certain organizations try to demean Chicago and, these inner cities, well, not all, but there's lead and contamination problems. And why is this? Because instead of actually investing money in changing infrastructure, we got to pay rich people tax cuts, corporations tax cuts. Our next story, we got to give subsidies to healthcare companies and pharmaceutical companies. We basically have to do corporate welfare instead of changing pipes and basically investing in people. And that should not be. And by the way, it's not just the Republican Party. The Democratic Party has done very little on this issue. When the media correctly at first covered Flint, they quickly moved on. And all we've seen for the last year and a half is obsessive focus on Donald Trump's tweets, President Trump's tweets, whatever the horse race is of the day, the substanceless drivel. And you know what? Sometimes when you focus on these issues, it doesn't go viral because this isn't sexy. But I don't care about that. It's important, and we're going to cover it. I'm going back tomorrow. There's a town hall meeting in East Chicago at the public library tonight. And I'm also going to give you the number of the mayor of East Chicago. So HUD has given permission. HUD, the national, Ben Carson, they have given permission, but it was the East Chicago Housing Authority, overseen by the mayor, who is forcing these people out now. Again, their kids are going to have to change schools again with no help at finding schools. They're going to have to move from Northwest Indiana, where most of them want to remain, to Chicago, where they do not want to be. So if you want to call Mayor Anthony Copeland, his office is 219-391-8200. One more time, 219-391-8200. Let his office know what you think about forcing poor African Americans out of a housing complex in 10 days and not helping them find schools, not helping them with their Medicaid transferring or any of that stuff. Because this is going to continue to happen if citizens don't take it upon themselves to do something.